information. We had to make sure everybody was on the, ethically and had to have a conversation as journalists, Dad, as you always taught me, to make sure everything is correct.
I'm going to do this, and I'm going to back out a little bit. I'm just going to say that there's been a big story broke today, and I got proud of the guys that helped do it. I was kind of on the sideline looking over their shoulder, and two of them are right here, Brenden and Rob Browne, and then Franze Beard was a part of it. He'll be along later. And Tony Barnhart and I were just reminiscing about issues when you're a journalist, how you can get left high and dry, how people can lie to you, and you have to make a decision. Are they lying to me, or are they telling me the truth? And then based on your experience and their credibility, you choose to put your career on the line by saying, this is what we learned today. And Tony Barnhart and I were just talking about the peril of this when you're a journalist. And I must say, I'm very proud of my team today, because I was kind of sidelined with issue of health with my wife, and who's okay at the moment. But and these guys here brought it to life. And it came up through a friend I've known for 30-something years, and who, by the way, had an association with Ole Miss at one time. And to Brenden and Rob and Franze, and it was a great collaboration. Tony, these are the best things. That's what a collaboration is, a team effort. And these guys peeled it off, and they all have their own field of expertise. Rob knows a lot about money. Rob knows some people at Ole Miss. Brenden had good contacts with people. We knew this one guy forever, and the guy who was our source was our source on the story we broke. In 2000, what year was it? 17.
Yeah,
we broke about the fact that the Florida brass was on their way, landing up in New England to talk to Chip Kelly, and they all denied it. And we knew we were right, because we knew it was on the flight. We had the information. So
we were at the airport.
But
that was classic.
Today, I've been called every name in the book, and so I said to Tony, told I should go out in the backyard and be shot, or dragged off somewhere and dumped in the dumpster, or hanging up because you're over the hill, buddy. You're too old for this, and maybe I am, but I ain't going away. And here's the thing that gets me: what are you doing, buddy? You're sabotaging the deal. You're going to ruin everything. It's not our job to seal the deal.
No,
it's our job, Tony, to report what we think we know. Right?
That's exactly right, and it's somebody else's job to seal the deal.
Well, gentlemen, let's roll the open and let's start this show off. I'm excited. We'll be right back after this message.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind, because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
I'm Buddy Martin, along with my team here. I'm just a small part of this, but Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, joins in to catch up on the hot story going on right now about Lane Kiffin, broken by Gator Bay today. Not so much me as these guys right here. Rob Browne, of course, and who's SEC Sidelines host. Brenden Martin, executive producer of this program and SEC Sidelines. Franze Beard will be along shortly. He was involved in it. A collaboration of the best kind that we got from a bunch of people, and we have this information, which we had a consensus on when we broke this story, and we are being called every bad name on the planet because of many people. I'm sorry?
We're used to it, man. I mean, this
comes with the territory. Right? I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick. I'm going to reframe it and tell you, read out the story that broke this morning when they broke it. 6 years, $13.5 million per year, all guaranteed. That's the headline on the story in Gator Bay. According to a well-placed source with a history of accurate information, That's what it will take for the University of Florida to land Lane Kiffin's signature on a contract that will make him the head football coach of the Gators starting as soon as the Ole Miss season comes to an end. Per the source, Ole Miss would love to go higher, but at $11.2 million per year for 4 years, state law on the years, Ole Miss money people, including the Grove Collective, have received their maximum. Ole Miss can't take a hit. They're tapped out, said the source, who noted that the Ole Miss Athletic Department will run a deficit for the third consecutive year, expected to be in the neighborhood of $12 million a year this fiscal year. 3 years ago, Ole Miss planned on an aggressive stadium renovation and athletic facilities, but those were put on hold to pump money into coaches' salaries and NIL. They need stadium upgrades, but the money has to go in NIL to be able to compete with the rest of the Southeastern Conference. And this is the final point. Because the state of Mississippi has the smallest population of any state in the Southeastern Conference, there are fewer 4 and 5 star prospects, necessitating Kiffin spending large amounts of money on NIL to lure, transfer, and keep the players he has. There you go. That's the story. That's how it's framed. My team of guys, these two here, plus a couple others, especially Franze Beard, worked that story. And, of course, the people are unhappy about us. They're going to mess the deal up, call me every name in the book. And that's just, like we said, comes to the territory. All right, guys, it's all yours.
Yeah. Rob, you go first.
Well, I want to defer to Tony. Orton and Buddy just talked, and Tony, you get stories like this, information like this, but trust but verify. Go to multiple sources, and so many times today, and we've had you on here and Franz, Buddy, talking about it, just throwing stuff up against the wall and hope it sticks. Right. And you got to think about the consequences and all like that. But living in Memphis, Ole Miss people are like They've raised more money and spent more money than they have ever in the last 5 years. I do know this too. When Lane Kiffin and Auburn were playing footsie under the table in 22, their season cratered. I think they lost 4 of the last 5 games.
Right.
I think the canary in the coal mine is going to be, Tony, how Ole Miss performs on the road at Oklahoma tomorrow. I think for Saturday, that's going to be pretty interesting.
That's going to be interesting. And the thing about a story like this, guys, is that it really comes down to the Lane Kiffin and his group. Because if it's all about money, I mean, if his money is going to definitely decide the deal, then you have your answer. Because Ole Miss has told you they're going to tap out below what Florida could offer. And so is there more to it than money? Okay. I think you guys saw the piece by Ryan McGee with Lane Kiffin a while back where he opened up to a lot of things. And one of the things he said in that piece with Ryan is that, hey, look, I used to be a guy that I wanted my statue out front. I wanted the recognition. I wanted my, to have everything that the Nick Sabans and the Kirby Smarts and all that have. But I've learned I live in a place that I truly love, and my kids are close by, and there's a lot more to life than just the number that you're going to make in this contract. And the other part of this, for lack of a better term, I think guys now have a decision to make when it comes to college football. Do you want to be at what I call it the crazy level? Crazy level is the Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, where it's going to be crazy. Or do you want something a little more calm? And I think it'll be interesting to see what Lane Kiffin and his folks want to do. Do you want to live and do you want to trade that for a lifestyle choice, or is it all about money? And here's a debate for all you guys: can you win a national championship in football at Mississippi? Can it be done? If it can be done, then now it's about money or something else. If you're going to use the excuse, well, I don't think you can win a national championship there, then you also have your answer.
I want to talk about the veracity of the story for just a moment, if I can, because what happens after this, who knows? Whether he signs or doesn't sign, there's some indications that he will or has or whatever. I don't know that. I don't know any more than what this story was today. These guys put together, did a great job with another source. I don't know if I'd say he was an impeccable source, but he's about he has as much knowledge about the SEC and Ole Miss as most anybody I know. And he's the one who kind of tipped us off with the story. I want to get to Franze too also. But number one, what this shows, and we know this much, whether or not he takes the offer, Florida is making an aggressive play for Lane Kiffin. We thought that was true, but now we know it's true because it's out there. Secondly, I talked to another guy in the media today who's a really well-respected reporter who said, I think you're probably onto something. He said, I heard the figure 7 years, 15 million. He said, but that might be what Jimmy Sexton's asking, as opposed to what the real number is. This particular story says this is what Florida is either has offered or is offering. And Franze, finally, I'm not going to give your sources away or say who said this, but if you look at the signs and think of this. What if I told you this that already Lane Kiffin has made the indication to another coach in the SEC that he's going to be the Gator coach next year? I guarantee you that was the conversation which took place. All right, Franze, am I wrong about that?
No, Lane Kiffin told another SEC coach quite recently. He said affirmative words about being a Florida Gator coach next year. I can't give everything out there without revealing my source who said it, but my source who said it is about as credible a Gator as there is, other than Steve Spurrier. Buddy, would you say that he's probably?
Yeah, he's a long time and a well-known and a highly pledged source. He's not a big money guy, but he knows all the big money guys.
Yeah.
Well, he is too.
Well, I mean, he's had money over the time. I'm saying he's not on a scale with some.
No,
of these guys.
he doesn't write $5 million checks like some of the gazillionaires.
Yeah.
But
well, Franze, and wouldn't you say the uniqueness of it is that the connection to both programs, in that sense of the rarity of it, is that there is equal connection at either or. And when we fielded the phone call with Rob, and Rob is the one that really is the one that is the guy that's done the shoe leather journalism here, just called me. I was just a conduit. But the story, and Rob, you please interrupt me if I get it wrong, because I really turned Rob and Franze over to each other to write the story to get it right, imperfect. But what I understood, but this is this person was recently, in Oxford or in Oxford at the time, and just sort of, seemingly was very connected to the message that was being conveyed at that moment, and it was intentional to talk about it.
Yeah.
Would you agree or disagree, or am I misrepresenting what we're saying here, Rob?
Yeah, I agree with it. And like Tony was saying about the veracity of the story and the sources and all. And I mean, Tony, and here we got 3 guys, 3 great writers. Tony, Buddy, Franze. You get a lot of information is out there every day. How many people are checking the 3 sources minimum? And there's all kind of stuff out there in the social media, the Twitter sphere, or whatever, about Kiffin. He's going to be linked to a lot of jobs, but what you said is accurate.
Well, I guess let me reset here real quick, because I think the timeline is important. And I think we can tell the story real quick, and I think that would be helpful. So it was I wanted to make sure when Rob called me with this potential, information. Do you want to hear it? I said, yes. They said, okay, let's have a 3-way conversation. So I said, that's great. So there's verification by 2 parties that this was occurring. I asked the source directly, would you like, to be quoted before we have this discussion? They said, not directly, indirectly is fine. And I asked them directly what they would like to be called. So as far as, reference and I think, Franze, what we said, close to the program or trusted sources close to both programs. And then I said, are we on the record at this point? And they said, yes. So, and then Rob verified. And so, look, I very much so wanted this to be done the right way. So we were dealing with this,
Right.
Story incorrectly. And then, they told the story, and I think, Franz, you can pick it up from here as far as the details. You wrote this story, and if you don't mind sort of, I guess, talking about the details of what was reported.
Well, Ole Miss cannot offer but anything more than a 4-year contract. Same contract. They give the governor a 4-year contract, and that's the mindset behind this 4-year contract deal. Now they can maybe offer a rollover, but as I understand, it can't be an increase. You can't increase it until you get to that rollover year.
Mm-hmm.
It's complicated, and I'm sure it's designed with the right intentions, but in this case, it's hurting them, number one. And number two, the emphasis was on this fact, and I have made 2 phone calls since then to, I lived in Mississippi. I was exiled there for 3 years during my formative time. It's where I got started writing about sports. Tony and I share the same background of starting sports writing in a little bitty old town.
Yep.
And although his was in Georgia, mine was in the great state of Mississippi. And anyway, I checked with a couple of people, and they have told me exactly that. Ole Miss has failed to meet budget for 3 consecutive years. And they set aside a whole bunch of money that they were going to spend on a $350 million stadium and facilities upgrade. They did that to spend it on NIL and coaches' salaries improvements. And as a result, they're back to ground zero. They got to have the upgrades. They don't have the money to spend further on NIL money, or further on more coaches' salaries, et cetera, like that. So they're kind of locked in. 11.2 is the top of their budget.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing. But Tony, and Buddy, y'all know.
Well,
some booster may come along and say, "Hey, here's another, Dickie Scruggs. He won $700 million on the tobacco settlement alone."
Right, but it's not. It doesn't end there. The rest of it, Rob, which is the discussion that there is $13.5 million per year at 6 years, guaranteed on the table. And that Ole Miss is, quote, tapped out.
Right.
That's exactly verbatim what they said. They tapped out. They can't reach it. Yeah. And they know that Florida knows, and everyone knows that they've got this money ready to go. They can do it. They want to do it. And this is, they mentioned the law about Ole Miss, but there's obviously ways around those things. Obviously, I don't think that was a huge part of it not being able to have a contract over 4 years. With a renegotiation after 4.
But bottom line, guys, what's the difference between how high Ole Miss can go and what Florida's prepared to offer? What's that number? 2 million?
Yeah.
2 million
Monopoly
a year?
money.
Yeah, 2 million a year.
That's
roughly 2 million a
nothing.
year. Nothing.
And the question is, would Lane Kiffin, for that difference in the money, wouldn't you like to keep your same lifestyle? In other words, going to a place like Florida with the expectations, and I can't answer the question, but those are the kind of things that he and his people are going to be thinking about. Because if we're talking about $2 million a year over 6 years, that's just not a whole lot of money.
Well, don't forget the tax too. They have state income taxes in Mississippi, none in Florida.
Let me pass one thing.
Well, I would just like to say, and Rob, you can. I pressed on this issue. I actually said, what's the MO? Why would you want to, leave what you've done? We all know his story. And this person who was close to a lot of, we said before, people in both programs said, that this is something that he's always wanted, in the sense of he was a Spurrier fan. He wears a visor because he's a Spurrier guy. That
he said he was going to model himself for Spurrier.
He's modeled his entire career after Spurrier, and this person went as far as to say is that he should know that, or they should know that a call from the old ball coach would make a big difference. I mean, I'm not making this up as far as like.
Let me throw something else out there. Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix, was on our show this morning with John Hartwell and Matt Dean, and he said Missouri and Ole Miss have benefited the last 4 years from a favorable schedule for the most part. It is about to flip big time for Missouri and Ole Miss in the next 4 years. I told Dave I was going to dress as Halloween. I'm going to come as a 9-game SEC schedule in 2026. I think I'm going to scare the hell out of people. But Tony,
but Franze, I mean,
let me throw something in that I've been talking to some folks about. I was driving home. I was up in Ocala today, and as I was driving home, I got the usual bombardment of phone calls and texts and stuff like that. And this probably made as much sense to me as anything else, which is that Lane may have hit the wall as far as what he sees he can do recruiting wise, because he's had to use the portal because they don't have enough. There's more 5-star prospects in Fulton County on a yearly basis than there are in the entire state of Mississippi any 2 years, typically. Wouldn't you say, Tony? Is that probably?
I would say that's the case, yes.
Yeah, that he has sort of realized that he may have hit the wall as far as building a program through the portal. And this is somebody else saying it to me. I see the sense in what he's saying, is my point. And he's saying that he's realizing that, okay, do I want to stay here forever and maybe have a diminishing return because of I can't keep this up, or go to Florida where he doesn't have to use the portal as much because he can because there are more 5-star players within 100 miles of Gainesville than there are in the state of Mississippi in any 2 years. Does that make sense to anybody?
Tony?
Well, it does make sense, because when I was talking earlier about the fact that what is his ceiling in terms of the ability to recruit the players to compete for a national championship. When I asked, can he win a national championship there, that factors in, because realistically, you're going to need the players that are in the state plus the transfer portal. And what he's got to do is sit with his people and say, okay, let's take a hard look at what is possible at Ole Miss. Money, we'll figure it out. But what's possible? If it's possible to win a national championship there, that's one thing. But if you decide after studying it through and through that winning the national championship is not likely, then you've got another offer on the table.
Let me say just one thing here about this story, and we can argue all day long with the people, with the fans who want to say it's BS, it's made up, it's just, whatever you want to say, it's fine. But I think what this shows is that Florida is making an aggressive play for the coach they need. They've identified it. Shane Matthews have been saying he's not just the best candidate, he's the only candidate. That's what Shane said. And so if this is the guy, they identified him. And I'd have a good friend who was at the meeting last week when the boosters got together, and all the stories have various versions, but he was there, and he said they met, they talked, and he said, is the money there? Yes, the money's there. And okay, then the green light is on. So the question I have, do you guys think that when Scott Strickland made the call and fired Billy, even though he won, he knew he may have Lane in his back pocket? What do you think?
I would say that when he fired Billy, I think first off, I think Billy Napier had been told he would not be coming back before the Mississippi State game. And I judge that on the way he was at the press conference. This was not a guy whose future might still be in doubt. He knew where his future was going to be. But I think that he had been given a mandate to go make a Godfather offer to Lane Kiffin. I love that term, but it's true. When you make an offer, he can't refuse. And I believe that he had been given, I think Scott Strickland had been given the mandate. And I think Billy Napier knew Saturday night when he came into the press room that it was over. And I judge that again on the following Monday when we had players coming in. Their reactions were that of guys that knew even before Sunday morning that the gig was up.
I also want to say something before I brought Brenden on the call this morning from the person that called me. One of the things was Kiffin, who he would be reporting to at Florida. And it was interesting, that story possibility, because Florida doesn't have they have an interim president now. They got to get that worked out. And, you report to the athletic director, and that's one of the things that Kiffin's trying to get, or his people, his agent, which, Jimmy Sexton, is trying to get who will he report to. And he has some stipulations on that. And what I was told was Scott Strickland's not going to be, the arbiter of everything. It would be the president, but they don't have a permanent president in place right now. That was another angle on that story that the source told us today. So interesting.
I don't know how many guys we get on here, but I know we have Ben Troop is scheduled to be on. Loren Meadows is scheduled to be on.
I'll tap out. I know y'all got to get on here and do this.
Just hold on 1 second. Yeah. Let's see who we got. I think Brenden stepped away. I thought he was driving the ship. Let me just go check and see. But
this is like the opening of the Brady Bunch with us all.
Loren's here. Let's bring him on and say good evening to where'd Loren go?
There we go.
Okay. So good evening. Tony. Loren, you know the story by now. We've repeated it before, and people are still asking, guys, what's the story? I'll let Rob reiterate what we said. We've learned that Florida is made an offer to Lane Kiffin. I think it's 13-5 at 7 years, right? Is it right?
6 years.
6 years, 13-5.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so and that's what we don't know anything about the details of the reaction, but we reported today on Gator Bait, and I'm going to try to bring Ben Troop in. We've got to send him a link that there's a deal on the table that Florida has made a play for Lane Kiffin, and the number that you heard, and Ole Miss can't reach that number for various reasons, not the least of which is they're tapped out in terms of money, and also there's a state law about the contracts, etc., and they have state income tax. So the supposition is that this is what's happened, Florida making an aggressive play for Lane Kiffin. And I know, Loren, you had an interesting guy you ran into today in the gym.
Yeah. Of all the people that I thought I'd run into today, it was Billy Napier. He was at the gym, and good for him, man. I mean, most guys would shut her away, but I looked over and I said, man, that's Billy, that's Coach. And I walked over and just, say, hey, good luck. Appreciated you always being gracious to me, answer my questions and things like that. And I thought a lot of times I asked you some tough X and O's questions, but he always was stand-up dude. And he just said, hey, man, I'm trying to keep my routine. And so, he's out working out, trying to keep his mind right. And I'm sure he wants to coach again. And it was kind of emotional, man. He was still kind of, when I said thank you, he kind of choked up a little bit. But, I know people say, Billy is rich and he's in a good position to provide for himself and his family. But if you're a coach, you're competitive. And, so it was good to see him, man. And people, I don't know if people recognized him or not, but he was just kind of off to himself, getting his workout in. But, it actually, man, it was kind of good to see him because I didn't get to see him, really say anything to him when he left. And like Fran said, you kind of knew, I asked him kind of a DJ Lagway question in the press conference, but you kind of knew, that things were going south. So
you asked the only football question of the whole night.
Yeah, I did. And so, but we on to the next. And you guys broke some major news today. Had the internet on fire, and I think you guys got called everything in some ways, but a child of God. But what I'll say is, you don't find many better than Buddy Martin, Franze Beard, and Rob Browne, and they've got their sources. And that's what I told people. I said, we don't just. I mean, that's one thing about GatorBaitMedia.com. We don't put a lot of stuff out there that just is thrown out in the air. And Mr. Barnhart can attest. This comes from good reporting, and that's what it's about. So, there's an offer. Doesn't mean Lane Kiffin is coming, but is out there, and I have it on good authority that there is mutual interest. So we'll see what happens.
One of my mentors a long time ago says, when you work on a story like this, don't let your writing get ahead of your reporting. Do the reporting first, then do the writing. Some people try to write and then justify what they've written, but they don't have the reporting to back it up. So always try to make sure that your reporting is ahead of your writing.
I don't have a lot of sympathy with people who want to beat up on a journalist when they don't have any clue what's going on, haven't lifted a finger except to go on Twitter or whatever and get information and talk to their pals over a beer, and they're experts. And they want to say Tony Barnhart's a piece of crap. He's way too old. Should have retired 10 years ago. I mean, have your opinions. I'm going to tell you something.
So tell us, Mrs. Barnhart, how do you really feel?
Exactly. Here's the thing. It's really scary. You look at Allie Peak Wilbur said on her podcast recently that she had heard there was a contract on Lane's desk from Ole Miss that he hadn't signed. Well, a lot of people think Allie was in this story today. They called her every uncouth name in the world. Get off of it, people. Stop being, such sexist pigs, and making comments like dumb blonde. That was the nicest thing you said about her. And just because she didn't agree, she knows a lot, okay? A lot more than used comebacks do, just so you know, all right? So I had to get it off my chest. Good evening to you, Ben.
How you doing? How's everybody doing?
Any news today, Ben? Any news?
Hey, look, I was on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and I said, people coming at Buddy, people coming at Allie, people coming at Franze, and all these different things. But we got to see the ugly side of what social media is and does. But if you, Allie, if you know her, listen, she's thick-skinned. She got Ole Miss fans pissed. They are pissed. But I think this whole Lane Kiffin situation is polarizing, right? Like when everybody was saying, I got people up here saying, Ben, man, I ain't know that how that Florida search going. I said, look, man, I'm not giving away my sources. And who I know what this, who is it gonna be? But we knew it was gonna be a big time decision for Scott Strickland, Lane Kiffin, and whomever else they got on the short list of who's gonna be the next head coach at Florida. But if I'm gonna keep saying that, if Billy Napier proved one thing, is that everything that happens at Florida matters. Everything. Firings, comings, goings, everything. And I'm not taking nothing away from Penn State and Arkansas and Oregon State and Oklahoma State and UAB and Colorado State. They ain't Florida. And I mean that humbly when I say that, but they're not. So this thing is going to go on until whoever signs on the dotted line. Because everybody coming at Buddy and Franze and Allie, they ain't got no credentials. I mean, I'm just saying, like, they coming at y'all like, I'm sorry. When they saying, like, who told Buddy and Franze? Who told you? Who told you that what you saying is correct? Right?
Well,
so I don't know. I laughed at it because I was like, number one, most of us, thank God for podcasts and the radio. They would have never heard our voice. I ain't got no journalism degree. They wouldn't let me, I knew where the school was. They just wouldn't let me up in there. I knew where it was. They were like, True, what you in here for? Looking for the bathroom. I ain't this ain't what I do. But
Buddy was a legend for scooping people long before, I was still wet behind the ears when Buddy was breaking the story that Ray Graves would no longer be the head football coach, at the University of Florida. Ray Graves and Jack Hairston. Ray Graves' story was broken by Jack Hairston and Buddy Martin, two absolute legends when it comes to that. And I can vouch for this. I grew up under good people who taught me well. Buddy worked for Smith Barrier and worked for Furman Bisher. And I guarantee you,
Me too.
Furman Bisher would have launched you out the window at the Journal-Constitution if you had put something in there that you didn't know to be true.
Yeah, thank you for those kind words, but it don't matter. It's today's world we're in, nasty, vicious, mean streets of the internet. That's how it is. You better be able to take it, Loren. In Dayton, there's certain parts of towns you go in, you better be able to take it, right? Take and give a punch, right?
Oh yeah. We build different in the 937, but I don't know who he says there's still only 30 viewers. I keep it real. We get more than 30 viewers in about 30 seconds. I don't know where that but
I see 309 up there right now.
I don't know where I don't know where, but like you said, buddy, man, we got a job to do, and I think we try to be respectful of A, our sources, B, our friends that are sometimes sources, and the people that we know. But you guys, it's I still pinch myself sometimes that I'm in this space with these folks, and Tony Barnhart is one of the reasons I became a football fan or ever even put on a helmet. So we talk about people that I watched when they would do that round robin, Mr. Barnhart on ESPN, College Game Day, and you guys would do your little round robin. Everybody had their little blip and that kind of thing. So we, these some heavy hitters out here, man. All that
Tony,
all those other guys sitting on the bar, but just sitting around. We got some heavy hitters on here, man.
Well, it's nice of you to say we do. And by the way, I just want to say this. I want to move on to the story, where it goes next, the reality of the sets in the money, what we think is going to happen and which way things are going to go. We don't know Lane's mind. He may say, I love it in Oxford, and this is where I want to be. But as someone said today, when you guys talk to the source, they said, well, he loves Oxford. His ex-wife is there, his granddaughter. And this source said everything that can happen in Oxford can happen in Gainesville. Okay, same thing. So that's important. But Tony, I was at the SEC media days, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago. And I had a guy named Tom Schmidt with me who played football at Georgia Southern. And he was doing all the show with me. And we were getting ready to leave after our live show. And he was awed by a lot of the athletes and Tim Tebow, this guy. He says, I want to meet one guy. I said, okay, who do you want to meet? He says, Tony Barnhart. That's the guy I want to meet. And I said, well, I think I can arrange that, So I walked him over to Tony and introduced him to Tom, and that made his week. He got to meet Tony Barnhart, TB, Mr. College Football. So, all right, so we blew enough smoke here today. Let's say, where does this go? What's the next thing? Because, look, this could be the opening encounter of the negotiations. Maybe that's the number they put out. They expecting, like I said to another media guy today, who, by the way, he said he's heard too. Same way he verified what we said. He hasn't written his story yet. But I want to see where it goes from here. This could be the opening round. Maybe they go to 15, which is where Jimmy Sexton wants them to be. Who think 15? Well, that sounds absurd, but hey, we're already past absurd. So this thing is getting real. It shows us again that Florida is serious about this. They put their money where their mouth was. Lord, I hope Scott Strickland is right this time. That's all I can say.
The thing about it is what has happened with this reporting. If that number from Florida is true, now they haven't set the ceiling; they set the floor. Okay. If anybody wants Lane Kiffin other than the University of Florida, that number's got to go above what's in the reporting thus far. So that's what's going to make this. And well, we were going to try to get Lane Kiffin. Well, you're not, unless you're willing to outbid Florida, because Florida has, as Buddy just pointed out, Florida has given a very clear signal that they're serious. Okay, and Florida's a place, like a lot of them we deal with, guys. is that they may lose a player, a recruit, they may lose a coach, they may lose a head coach, but it's not going to be because of money. Okay, it'll be because of something else.
Great point. I think we lost Brenden there someplace. Robert, if you got to go, give us your final comments.
Well, yeah, and I'll just say this, Tony, and you were in Oxford a few weeks ago when you went down there to see Lane Kiffin. I'm not sure if you had a chance to. You went to Mississippi State. You're doing your tour. There's a lot of money that Ole Miss has, and they had the number 3 ranked accounting school in the country. They got a great law school, and Dickie Scruggs is the money guy there. He was the lead attorney in the tobacco settlement with the Gulf Coast. His take was $700 million. I know a friend who worked next to a couple. Their payout was 15 years at $24 million a year for 360. So there were 13 other attorneys. These are mostly law school.
Sounds like coaches' salaries.
Yeah, it does. So there is
a wrong business.
There's a ton of money that and it's tied up in accounting. Half the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies are CPAs. Engineers and accountants are not boring people. They just tend to get excited about boring things. But there's a lot of money there at Ole Miss but there's a lot. There's 160. Shane Matthews did a great job of putting all this on paper. There's 162,000 living alumni for Ole Miss, over 500,000 for Florida. Less than 3 million people in Mississippi, 23 million in the state of Florida. All the comparisons. And then a friend of mine who's a big Ole Miss season ticket holder said, yeah, and who spends more money to try to win Super Bowls than the Dallas Cowboys? As Jerry Jones says, the Dallas Cowboys. But I think this is Jimmy Sexton at his best. He shopped Lane Kiffin to Arkansas. It didn't work out. He came to Ole Miss, and he's got Ole Miss doing things they hadn't done since Johnny Vaught was there. And so but I think Florida is so determined to get it right this time that nobody, I think Franze said it, Don Corleone, an offer they can't refuse. I think it's not about money. And Tony, y'all all referenced it, but Tony, I heard you say it. Lane's talking about what he can do. It's not just the money. It's what you can do at Florida based on what Steve Spurrier did, Urban Meyer did. And when you get it right at Florida, it's a 1 + 1 = 3 deal for him to go there. Nothing against Ole Miss. And I know their fans are mad. No one ever thinks that their coach would leave their school. But I do think Florida has dug it in this time, and they're not going to be denied. It won't be because they didn't try. And I'd say it's very, very likely. And, all these things about his kids and everything, that can all be worked out in Alachua County, Florida.
It's called, gentlemen, it's called leverage. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And Florida's got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, you look at it, I mean, Ben says it most. And when a guy like Ben Troop, I mean, he's been there, done that. One of the most recognizable brands in the country, if not the most recognizable brand, the most recognizable hand gesture in the entire world. I mean, so many things that Florida has going for them. And, no offense to Ole Miss, but you listen to a Mississippi native like Shane Matthews, who loves the state, grew up an Ole Miss fan, and is closer to it than most of us. And it's just not the same. And Florida, like Mr. Barnhart said, there's leverage. There's just everything, the brand, just all that. One of the first 4 Jordan schools, recruiting hotbed, is all there. And, it's going to be interesting to see if that offer sticks, what happens. Somebody said the introductory press conference will be bananas. That's true. But I mean, it's just, it's out there now, and everybody knows what it is. And if you didn't know what it is, you weren't paying attention.
The great Shane Matthews said it was the most important hire in the history of Florida football. Franze may not agree with that, but certainly it is right up there. And especially now, this great program has gone south on us. And I guess we didn't see it coming, but boy, it just began to slip away from us. Here we are. And so I'm glad that Florida responded. I think if they didn't, they'd have a major problem with their fans. So now we have to see if they can close the deal with Kiffin. If Kiffin can come here and win and get this program back on top, can you imagine what a week we've had? Kevin O'Sullivan's, now stepping aside. We've had the firing of Billy. We've had now the situation with Lane Kiffin, the offer. A lot of news at the University of Florida, guys.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of news everywhere else, and I think I've never had so many Hollywood squares on at one time. I mean, look, if you got something to say to me right now, you better say it, boy, because I got I have got the entire panel. Talk some smack now.
Hey, Brenden and I, we got Barry Switzer joining us tomorrow morning. That ought to be fun.
Wow, that's great.
Really fun. Yeah,
hey, I missed a call from him last night.
Rob, I was with Coach Switzer about 3 weeks ago. I went and visited him in Norman.
I am so excited. He called me on the phone. I told him, I said, man, I am honored. I said, I grew up in Memphis following Oklahoma because our good friend Buddy Leak played football there, and he lived in Memphis, big Catholic family with 8 kids. Talk about NIL. And in 1979, he moved back to Oklahoma City, said, I'm going to see what my name will do for me to help sell some insurance. And it did a lot for him. Sold a lot of insurance. But when Barry Switzer called, he's sharp as a tack, man.
Yes. He was great on the Cowboys documentary, man. That was one of my favorite episodes when they were talking about Switzer.
Rob, are you meeting him in Norman?
No, he's going to be coming in on sidelines in the morning on our 9 a.m. Eastern with us. But what an honor. And that was just a friend. I'd said I would love to have him on, and we're going to do it. And it's going to be a lot of just ask and listen because that's what we grew up with. I used to write all these coaches, athletic departments for media guides, and Clemson and Oklahoma. Switzer would sign. I was a kid. I was an Auburn fan, but I love college football. He'd send me a media guide autographed, and he'd autograph pictures for you, and he'd have some inspirational note like, if the sky's the limit, you're not pushing high enough. Stuff like that.
Well, his book, Bootleg, I think is, if I remember correctly, Bootlegger's Boy.
Yep.
It was an incredible book. People don't realize this is a guy that went out to play football because it meant he could take a shower every day.
So quick, I want to point out something. We got a guy, listener, Todd Murgatroyd just chimed in. He actually coached with Billy Gonzalez, I think at Kent State, coached him and coached with him. So they got a lot of history there. So Todd Murgs coming in from Columbus, Ohio, big, good friend of Billy Gonzalez and obviously a good friend of mine too.
Can I throw in something real quick? I know we got to go. Brandon Spikes has been designated as Coach Attitude for Florida's football team. He is in charge of attitude, and he says we need to have a lot of Meet Mr. Spikes moments a week from Saturday.
Wow.
And those of us who remember No Show Marino and his Meet Mr. Spikes moment.
Oh my God.
I don't think he still hears anything but the footsteps.
Before everyone,
let me get back to Billy Gonzalez real quick. I want to get back to Billy Gonzalez before it slips away, because I said numerous times over the past few weeks I didn't think Florida would pull the trigger because they didn't have anybody to go to step in as an interim. I had no idea that Billy Gonzalez was willing to do that. And I was wrong. I was so impressed with the way he handled himself and what he's done and how he split up the duties. And now he brought Bubba Spurrier back in the mix. I love what he's done with the coaching situation and the play calling and the quarterbacks. I think automatically it's going to get better and the communication is going to get better. And that seems to be a team that's not good communicating, as we see. So kudos to Coach Gonzalez. I heard Urban talking about him today. He played for Urban at Colorado State and coached with Urban. So I think it would be great if Billy could be added to the staff with Lane. That would be wonderful. But I just want to say I apologize. I made those statements. I'm very happy he is the interim, and I wish him all the best. It's going to be kind of a fun last 5 games.
I agree. And
I just wanted to ask before Rob jumped off. Rob, you alluded to something about that you heard initially before the phone call with me from the source that there was somebody else that Lane potentially would be reporting to, and that wouldn't be Scott Strickland.
Was there any more potential, like anything
like
the president but they have an interim, and I think they need to get a permanent president.
The government shutdown's keeping the current president from being taken through the necessary steps to become president.
Yeah, and that's
one of the things that they don't have. I believe that the board has passed this president through, but they can't officially go through because it has to go through the Capitol and all that.
Yeah, and but that's one of the things, and I'll check with our source and come back on that, because again, I don't traffic in rumors, as Dudley Dawson always says, and I know none of y'all do. That's what, by the way, Tony and Scott Rabelais, media days, traditions, coat and tie, every year. That's the Furman Bisher influence. I mean, so man, guys, I'm gonna let y'all. I'll let y'all go. But this is awesome. This is true grit journalism. Nobody's saying things, but man, when I told Brenden this morning, it's like a medical team, a MASH unit triage. Brenden went through all these procedures and checkpoints. I'll talk to Buddy. I'll talk to Franze. And then we get on here, and here's Ben, here's Loren, here's Tony. We'll see where the story goes, but I'll be in Memphis at a rehearsal dinner tomorrow night with a bunch of Ole Miss people. So I can't wait to hear what they've all got to say.
Here's one thing I've learned, by the way, about journalism.
Yeah.
The perfect collaboration happens when the story breaks and all the right people show up. They just show up because they know it's like, okay, we got to go. We got a story. And here we are tonight, guys. And I want to say one more time, what a terrific job you guys did this morning, particularly you, Brenden. You were all over it. And putting this story together, these people, and pardon me, it pisses me off for people to take shots at people when they threw the effort that went into this. I want to say I'm so proud of you guys, proud to be a part of this. I didn't have a major role in this. I want you to know it wasn't me. But I'm proud of them, proud of them, and they made absolutely the right calls. And great job, Rob, and great job, Brenden, and great job, Franze.
Well, Dad, you have a huge part.
Out here.
Yeah,
you ain't got no haters. You ain't popping out here. You got a lot of haters because you popping out here. And on top of that, if Lane Kiffin does not come to Florida, it will not be because of what happened today. It'll be because he don't want that smoke. Because the money's gonna be there, right? The money's gonna be there. Look, so if he don't come, well, let me say this. Remember last week when Scott Strickland said, "Don't believe none of these reports." He's not gonna get fired on Sunday. What happened on Sunday? Right? So what happens is they mad because they wasn't first. Just say that. Dang. Who told Buddy that? Who told? That's what it really is, right? People want to be first, but you was first and accurate. So if Lane Kiffin don't come, I'm gonna say, hey man, I said, listen, the Italian restaurant in Oxford is called the Italian Restaurant. It's got a name in Gainesville. So come on down if you want to come. You know? Hey, listen, I got coached by Lane Kiffin when he was with the Raiders. So I remember, you know what somebody told me? This is the last time Lane Kiffin gonna be highly sought after like this. This might be his last time to have this much leverage. You gonna go to Oxford?
Oh, I think this is his moment. This is his moment for him.
I'm just saying, you want to be a part of a top 10 brand or not? Mm-hmm. Last time I checked, with everything Florida hasn't done, we still a top 10 brand, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Like when pressed on all of these issues to talk to this person was very much so like he knows that the table is set. In the sense of the cupboards aren't bare. This is sort of, a boyhood dream in a lot of ways. Sort of like this is your moment, like that it all had sort of been building for this moment for him, and if he's gonna do it, this will be it. There's no other time than now. And if he's going to come back, and we even referred to, him being unsuccessful early on at Tennessee, and then his father. And I even went on to discuss how his father, always talked about, going and coaching at Florida. So this was not like a 5-minute phone conversation from Deep Throat with like, here you go. Yeah. We had a long talk about all of this stuff, because I wanted to make sure that this person, although I didn't need to even question it because the name was enough, but I still wanted to know, like, hey, we're going to say this, that really what you're saying. And it all, Rob, seemed like to me that beyond everything else, and Buddy says he has nothing to do with this, He absolutely does, because if I wouldn't have known Buddy, Tony, gone to places like the Point Air Institute and understand, ethical journalism and how all this stuff is supposed to roll out, I don't think you really go with it. But this was just sort of like we were doing our job. And our job was to report the news. And this was the news. And this news was gathered appropriately. This news had a secondary source and was recorded by two people. This news is real. This news had was not just an overheard conversation. This was intentional. This was had numbers to contracts that were intentional. I asked 3 times, how much was this? How much was that? I asked again, it was not just, hey, did you hear about this at the water cooler? So it was gathered with intention, with ethical, perspective in mind. Are we on the record? Are we off the record? All these kinds of things. Because I felt like it was the damn Epstein files, to be honest with you guys. I mean, that for me, this is the Epstein files. So.
I want to throw one last thing in there.
Everybody gets one final word.
And this is for a couple of the folks that have been making comments on there. For those of you who don't remember, back in 2005, I'm the one who broke the story along with Bob Redmond that Urban Meyer was going to be the football coach at the University of Florida. And this is like 5 weeks before it actually happened. And everybody called me every kind of liar that you can think about. Jeremy Foley called us up into his office and ripped us one side and down the other and everything like that. And guess what? Urban Meyer was the coach. And to this day, I can't reveal the source, but let me put it this way. One of our assistant coaches whose best friend was Urban Meyer, his wife, this assistant coach, his wife slept with this assistant coach and also was Shelley Meyer's best friend. So we only had a pretty good source there. We do good stuff.
Let me just back up this by, you guys may have heard another name, Pat Smith from JOX in Birmingham.
Yeah.
He just sent me a text and said, we'd like to have you on the show. I've lost his message, but here's the thing that makes me feel good. This guy, Henry Ramos, just ripped me a new one today. And I don't care. It doesn't matter. It says, buddy, pathetic clickbait. Attempt to draw people to a fledgling antiquated website. Okay. Then I got a guy named Clippy. I don't know who it is. And he wrote, and I'm hoping it'll sound egotistical here, but Buddy has been in journalism longer than most people have been alive. I don't think his integrity is a question here. If he's reporting this, it's based on sources. Been following Gator bait since the Spurrier years. Buddy may be wrong, but I trust him to be honest. That means everything to me right there. That's thank you very much.
And you know what? You may the website might be antiquated and old and all that, but you know what? There ain't no damn ads on the articles. You read it without you being. You don't sit there and that stuff's not blowing up in your face. You can read it at ease. It's not a big deal, and it's real journalism. So get over it.
I don't want to be making it about Buddy. But anyway, guys, again, thank you so much for everything. And as we go out, Brenden, I want to mention our friends at Titan MRI. We talk about it all the time. We won't go on long tonight. Just to say to you, if you have any needs for anything to do with CAT scans or anything to do with MRI, I've been through this a lot the last couple of weeks. One of the things I love about these people is the number one, custom make the time for you. If you can't be in there in the afternoon, they'll make you a night one. Also, they have a lot of things like the bigger MRI. I don't want to call them cages, but you just slide in that tube, it gets off the feisty in there sometimes. They got bigger ones. Claustrophobic, exactly. So these people at Titan MRI are first rate. They have several locations to serve you. They have 3 in Gainesville and 1 in Lake City and soon to come in Ocala. Titan MRI and Imaging. Check them out. All right, guys. Good job. I just want to say I really appreciate all you do. And good job, all the team members, especially the El Capitano, Mr. Brenden Martin over there. Hey, nice like that. Put it on, baby. Put it on.
All right, well, thanks for everybody. Thanks you, Mr. Barnhart, for coming on. You're always the best. Hey, watch us tomorrow. Hey, Ben Troop, we got to have you on too. Loren, we're all going to be on covering this whole
I'm just
thing.
saying, without, I mean, if we such nobodies, why do everybody know what was going on today? They know about websites and sources. Well, like buddy, like my daddy told me, he said, son, just know this: the people who root for you and the people who root against you both got to buy a ticket. They both understand.
They watching all the way. They watching all the way from Ohio.
Exactly. Listen. They talking. They saying 2 weeks ago in the game you were the worst. I said, but you was at the game, right? Yep. And I'm gonna see you next Saturday.
That's right. You're still watching. Hey, look, I run all the social media for Gator stuff. You don't even know. You don't want to be on the
Tell my name right. All right. Here you go.
Brenden, I'm in Ocala at lunchtime tomorrow. I'm buying.
Well, you're buying drinks then. All right. Yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Good night, guys. Here's a little music.
See y'all.
Good night. Thank you.